CosmicRadio.tv.
Cinematalkraphy.
Welcome to Cinematography. I'm your host, Roberto, joined by
Brent Hughes.
And today we have a couple cool things. One, notice, no microphones in our hands.
What?
No boom mic above us.
What?
We have lavs. What is it about a lav that makes you feel like you're a goddamn professional? I mean, is it the fact that like you'd see this sort of setup in like real broadcast shit?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I feel more like like we're like legit. And of course we're here at the fine palatial establishment of Mr. Brandt Hughes.
Yeah.
This cool angle. It's very chill. It feels.
I should have turned on the AC before we started.
Should have turned the AC on, probably. I mean, it's a bit warm. You can turn it on now. We don't have to. We can always.
The power of editing.
No, it's interesting that you bring up the clock wipe thing and the fact that you addressed it because we are talking about.
Nice segue.
See, I knew it. We're talking about the new Marvel movie Deadpool, starring Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
The Merc with the Mouth is, I think, Deadpool's sort of nickname. Now, how familiar are you with actually the Deadpool character in terms of the comics and whatnot?
I've seen a fair amount of that video game that came out.
Yes, like the latest Deadpool game.
Yeah. I just kind of knew of the personality of Deadpool, but had never really seen much of his work.
I've always been aware of Deadpool prior to the game and prior to like him in like Marvel versus Capcom 3 and things like that. Like I always knew about this character and a friend of mine. Like for me, I'm not the biggest comic book person, but I have enough friends who are. So you always hear about certain characters and certain kind of things, and one of the ones that would come up would be the character of Deadpool, this guy that was well aware that he was in a comic book, and that always intrigued me just on a weird level, the idea of like, here's a character, in these movies or these games or whatever that knows he's in it. For me, I'm a huge person of having the referential humor and breaking the fourth wall and things like that. And I really dug, like, especially like Marvel's Capcom 3, within those games there's always like a super ultimate move kind of thing. And Deadpool's is basically he starts using the objects within the game itself. Like he starts beating you with the HUD elements and weird shit like that. Or even in like the Deadpool video game, he makes constant reference that he's like voiced by Nolan North and has this sort of, very much video gamey kind of thing. I like that they did that a lot in the movie. And of course, really quick before I start going into this, as per typical of our reactions, this is spoiler ridden. If you haven't seen Deadpool, the initial I'll give is go watch it. I think it's well worth at least a shot watching for sure.
It's fine.
Okay, that's...
If your friends are gonna take you there and it's gonna be a fun time, you're gonna have fun.
It's funny, that's actually the same kind of opinion I have. Because I don't think it's a bad movie. I will say this, I like this better than Avengers.
Yeah.
I didn't like it better than Guardians.
Right.
I think it falls kind of in the middle. It's interesting because what I liked about it was that it didn't feel like that it kind of made fun of itself a lot. Like that it made fun of the tropes of like all the superhero movies. Like even the opening sequence and this kind of like cool CG pause shot had like all the kind of in jokes of like a douchebag directed this, an asshole produced this or whatever that was. And I thought that was really kind of a fun. And just again, the idea of having a character that's aware that he's in a movie is always fun. Like him looking at the audience saying like, oh hi there. They didn't push it as much as I thought they were though.
I'm sure you've picked up on this, but my personal style of humor is a really subtle and nuanced one.
Yes, for sure.
I really like it when people like make jokes that aren't obviously jokes and you figure out later that that was a joke. That was really smart and clever. And here there's a little bit of that, but there's a lot of really like overt,
oh yeah,
hey, we're making a joke, we're making a joke, we're making a joke.
I'm with you and I'm also not with you because, if you've picked up on me, I am a huge referential humor fan. I'm a huge guy. I don't know why.
I've noticed.
Well, because for me, it's a joke among three people. It's like myself, the writer, and the character on the screen. We're all laughing together at this like one little microcosm of a joke. Even to the point of that, the last scene of the film, I was like, I had friends of mine told me like, wait till the end of the movie, for the whole like X-Men spoiler bullshit that they always do. And the fact that they did the Ferris Bueller's Day Off like referential thing, I was like, I'm in. Like I was in already at the first couple of minutes, but I definitely dug the humor of it. I think there's a couple things I didn't quite dig humor-wise. Like it never felt like it was hyper over the top, but there like I was like, I wish they'd pull back here. Or if they're gonna go, just go the full 9 and that. Because I was kind of bummed that they only so many times referred to, talk to us, the audience. So what did you think of Ryan Reynolds then within the film?
I think he is totally fine. I kind of like Ryan Reynolds. That's what I would classify him as, a dude I kind of like. Even in like small indie films, like I like seeing him in those roles and stuff, and I think he's a totally serviceable actor who like plays the character as well as I imagine it. You know, not like a particularly revelatory role or anything, but like he was fun as Deadpool.
I too like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's a damn good actor. I think he did a great job with this role. It's kind of funny because I know that, you know, originally when it came to having this movie pitched, like Ryan Reynolds was like the person that was championing the idea of sort of having it be its own thing and not trying to make it too Hollywood, which I think is one thing I liked about the film because it is a rated R film. There's a couple moments of like, I kind of wish you'd push it further. And maybe that's just me, you know, because like ultimately the division between, if you ever want to know this lance-wise, and you can watch this and see it, and I forgot what movie it was that made me realize, I think it was like a movie with like vampires and werewolves and shit, where if you try to kill a human in any kind of like meaningful way, like blood splurting or head chopped off or something crazy, that's what gets you an R rating. If you do that with like anything that's not human, like a monster or whatever, even though if it's just as grotesque and just as crazy, that's still a PG-13 rating for some reason. It doesn't get too bloody. Like it's bloody, and yes, there are heads rolling and, you know, weird acrobatics, but because it's like a superhero movie, you don't see a lot of that happen. It doesn't feel as visceral or real. Like it just feels like a little over the top and, you know, maybe a little bit desensitizing.
There's some gore, but it wasn't grotesque. It felt appropriate for that.
Yeah, I think that's what it
film.
was. It felt like weirdly appropriate. I will say this, and this is something that I think my friend Mario's like, my friend Mario Martinez, he loves the character of Colossus. I think he'll be happy with this movie because they actually treat him with a little bit more respect than they have in the past. Typically, they don't really do too much with it. I think the last time that Colossus, at least that I remember being on the screen, was back in like X-Men 3 or something, and he was just like, I can help you, like talking in an American accent, and this time he's actually sounds Russian and, you know, has commands voice like other Russian guy does.
He's the metal guy, right?
Yeah, he's the metal guy. You know, this isn't our first Marvel movie to go to. I mean, we've seen, like we mentioned, Avengers, we've seen Guardians, and we've seen both X-Men movies, you know, Days of Future Past, at least of the later ones. Would you see Deadpool 2? And I ask it because I had said, hey, do you want us to see Deadpool? You're like, sure. Like you weren't necessarily hyper excited for this.
Yeah, I probably couldn't be much more apathetic towards this prior to going into it, mostly because I'm so burnt out on Marvel and superheroes, and there was also the big risk of like I know my style of humor, and I know that this doesn't necessarily align with it, but you know, the second one would be fine. I feel I would probably feel the same way about the second one that I feel about this one. Like if it's up to me and I'm just at the movie theater, like I'm probably not gonna see it, but as the second it hits Netflix Instant or whatever, I would love to watch it. I would love to sit down at home.
It's not like that's what's interesting about this film. It's not a bad movie,
right?
But it's also not like a safe movie. Like Guardians of the Galaxy for me felt like a very safe sort of like, oh, that's a superhero movie. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't bad. At least this one still had that Marvel feel. Like it had that weird Marvel sheen to it. You know, things are all shiny and pretty, but it still had its own sort of personality. It still felt like its own unique film.
And the biggest thing about that is tone. All the Marvel movies have pretty much identical tone. There's a space in the market for something that has its own voice in the way that this does.
Exactly.
Even if it's not necessarily my voice.
Right. No, I fully agree. You know, like in the Disney side of Marvel, I'd be like the Guardians franchise. And this becomes sort of the Fox's answer to that in terms of its mutant owning of the Marvel properties. I think that's fair. We should probably address the fucking cameo. What would you do if you were at a strip club and Stanley was your t-shirt? Just, you can come in the main stage, Candy, Excelsior.
Excelsior.
I don't mean it in a bad way, because I mean, like, that's the gag right now is that Stanley's, you know, cameos in every fucking Marvel movie. Like, that almost pulled me out of the film at that. I mean, I guess you're gonna put the cameo, put it in that ridiculous spot, but it just was like.
I mean, they warn you at the very first shot of the movie.
That's true. They say a bunch of fucking cameos. What I liked about it, I wish they'd done more. But I understand that they have to pull back because, again, for me, I love that stuff. But then if you do that, you get Paul, which is a good movie. I like it for sure. But it's very much like for a person like me that gets a lot of those like weird science fiction-y things and whatnot. At the same time, I don't know how I feel like about like the love story in there.
Structurally, I liked the way that it was bouncing back and forth between, you know, present and the origin leading up to present until it converged and then it just kind of followed through. Maybe it lingered in the past just a little bit, but Like, I totally get why they would do that, because you have to, I mean, you're establishing the character.
Right. I mean, especially for this kind of character, because, you know, we could talk about a Superman, and I mean, Superman's been around during the during the early days of things, even people like Batman. Deadpool is still a newer character in terms of stuff, and also that he's really popular with comic book people, but not so much comic book people. And you know, Marvel movies and Fox movies still have to make a crap ton of money. So you have to still do the origin story, but I'm actually kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that they kind of did it in flashback, because I like the idea of having characters like, yo, what do you mean like a superhero can't kill anybody? Oh, that's right, I'm not a fucking superhero. Let me tell you how the hell, you know, how we got here. You know, we got a flashback a bit. I think one of my favorite jokes was that when it got to the car, you know, back to the little car scene and got synced up back in time, was like, you already know what happens, and it sort of it literally fast forwards to then him masturbating with the goddamn unicorn, like, oh shit, we weren't supposed to show you that, and you can just spool back the tape a bit.
I really liked that moment. Like, I feel like that Zamboni moment
Yes.
landed really well with me, especially because like the first half of it felt like very Archer to me.
Yeah.
At least in like the delivery and the way that he's like kind of doing something ridiculous but keeping cool about it, and just being like an asshole, but like one that you can't help but kind of really find endearing.
Well, because he's joking as he's doing. I mean, again, he's doing very horrific things. He's killing people, you know, in very bizarre and peculiar ways. But like, you know, at one point, like he's about to kill somebody. He's like, "You're gonna die to a Zamboni," and just like riding this thing as someone's crawling away, you know, with the blood streaking right behind them, as this like slow-moving thing's about to kill them, because you know he knows where Francis is. I don't know how I felt about the villain. I mean, I know from what I understand, that is Deadpool's villain, like typically one of them. Like he almost felt like I'm Ajax, I feel no pain, you know, and here's you know, the antithesis, the person who feels everything, but, you know, can regenerate health and everything else like that. And, you know, very much, you know, like, it almost felt like Ajax was like, I have no humor, and like Wade's sort of the complete polar opposite.
If they're trying to be true to what that character is, like, how do you make a character that doesn't feel anything interesting? I guess you could argue, like, why not maybe a different villain that would be more interesting?
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, I think it's appropriate, because ultimately what it felt like this as a Deadpool's supposed to establish. I mean, again, the idea of this is you know, like every other Marvel movie, and it's not bad or good. At least they make a gag of that. Like, I like certain gags they made of stuff. They go like, here's a card, I think it's gonna move the plot forward, or something along those lines. It's just like, I like that Wade makes a comment of like franchise, like this is gonna be a franchise, everything else like that. You know, kind of making fun. I think that's why I enjoyed the most, was it made fun of the whole superhero plot thing. But there are really cool endearing moments. Like, I think one of my other favorite moments was Colossus is giving this speech like, 4 to 5 moments, we'll do this, just in the back of my head to shoot him, isn't he? Boom. It's like, I'm sorry, you were talking too much. Just like, I had to kill this guy already. I'll look out for the other 4. I was like, that was really a really kind of cool mode. I definitely enjoyed the film. I think I enjoyed it more than you did.
Probably, yeah.
But I do feel the same way. Like, in other words, I don't think it's a bad movie. I'm glad the movie exists, because I want Marvel properties allowing their directors to do their director thing. And I don't want to have the same Marvel formula that we've been getting over and over and over again, just because it's working. I want something different. I don't know if I want more Deadpool or more of that, or just, you know, whatever that voice happens to be, just something unique. Like, if the 2 movies that we've seen of Marvel that have been the highest breath of fresh air has been this and Guardians, that's 2 out of a billion. And X-Men First Class. Those might be the 3 that I can say off the top of my head. Because we're getting to the point where everything's, you know, pretty much the same. You know, we know what we're gonna get, and we know that X, Y, or Z is gonna happen. At least this movie was aware of itself, that it knew that was gonna happen. Like, it was aware that certain tropes are supposed to be done. You know, all these certain motions are gonna happen. I am glad that they made certain jokes about, like, the fact that Ryan Reynolds is there and, you know, in front of Xavier's mansion. It's like, you can't afford any other X-Men. We can only afford 2. That's all you get, guys. Sorry. You know, this is as much as Fox was willing to give us money-wise. Now, I mean, again, there's certain gags I dug and certain ones I didn't, but I am still like you overall. Would I have gone to see it if we didn't, you know, decide to do a review on it? Probably not right away. I mean, if my friends were like, well, you know, like, I didn't want, like, originally I was gonna eventually see it, but I wasn't even thinking of that. And someone said, hey, you want to see Deadpool? I go, let me give Brandt a call, see if he wants to make a video on it first.
Right.
But is it the one movie that I was like, I was looking forward to in the idea of that humor level for sure. But even for me, it didn't go deep enough. And maybe that's the problem with me is that I just, if I'm gonna get referential humor, just turn the dial to 11. Don't hold back. But I will say I did dig. I dig it enough that I want more of this, more of having a director's voice behind it. Again, like Guardians. Like I want there's enough of James Gunn in that film that feels like this feels like a different Marvel movie. Like I want those sorts of things to happen.
Just recently, he was talking about this movie and
yeah, that's right. He can say something about it.
Being fairly critical of executives and what they might take away from the film.
To kind of paraphrase it, the idea is they're going to see this movie, an executive in Hollywood, that essentially they're going to take away from this film, not so much of let a director say their own voice, but to essentially make this kind of movie,
we need an R-rated film with this kind of person who says these kind of things specifically.
Yeah, they're just gonna start mining for every joke character they can, which means we're gonna see another Spider-Man because that's the only other character in Marvel's library that has that. I don't know who's in DC's library, but I don't think that's the takeaway from this film. The takeaway from this is ultimately, there's gonna be a property that makes more sense for a director or makes more sense for a person. Let that director be the director, let this voice come out, whatever that voice is. Don't just make the goddamn same movie over and over again. I get the formula works, and yes, I get that there's money on the line, and a shit ton of money at that. But at the same time, that's what made at least my interest in Deadpool high, was the idea that here's something potentially new. Here's something at least we're gonna try to make, take a chance on. Even if it doesn't work. And I want that to be the takeaway because this has made a shit ton of money. This has made a good chunk of change. I don't want another Deadpool. I don't want another let's find another superhero or let's make our own. That's like this funny guy and and makes jokes and points at the camera. It's like, yeah, I know you're there, camera people. But I do want.
It's just Francis Underwood grows a real thick humor.
Yes, I want that. I want Francis. That's what I want. I want Francis Underwood, the superhero.
He puts on the Deadpool mask.
Fuck yes! It just puts it on and just that would be fucking hardcore. Actually, that would be really cool. But yeah, no, I want that. I want the idea of here's a director, here's a property. Let that director make the movie. Take Nolan. Nolan's, Dark Knights, yes, they're darker Batmans, but they're very much Nolan films. If you've watched, you start watching other Nolan films like Inception, you see the tropes and sort of the style that is Nolan. I want more of that kind of stuff. I don't know what, and I don't know what that is because it's not something that I can say oh, it's this person or it's this element. It's no, let him make a good movie first, and then the franchise second. Yes, there's gonna be a Deadpool 2. And yes, that's gonna happen. They've already greenlit it before it even began. If it's more the same, you almost have to up. For me to see Deadpool 2, you're gonna have to up it to 11. You're gonna have to turn the referential dial up really fucking high.
Right.
And that's fine for me. That may not be fine for you, and they may not be fine for everything else. But at least at that point, you're still saying consistent voice. Don't dial it down to 5. If you make the joke of well, the executives want this, okay, that'd be kind of funny.
Sort of in a 22 Jump Street style.
Exactly, same idea. That sort of thing where it's aware of what the fuck it is. I don't want a million and 20 movies like this where it's a rated R. We get to have blood and guts and things like that. And it's well, okay, but I mean, that's nothing new.
Yeah, because what we need is, as a thriving culture, we need a breadth and a depth of voice.
Right.
And right now we don't have an abundance of either. We're a lot better on breadth of voice.
At least in the summer blockbuster,
Sure.
comic book movie. I mean, we have a lot of it in indie space and a lot of it in other things, but
yeah, and that's where the breadth comes in with the growing indie space. The money's not there for there to be a ton of depth in voice in that capacity. But yeah, also the blockbuster space has been very same for a long time. So at the very least, it's nice to have a slight change of pace.
Yeah, I think that's what I tend to dig about Deadpool, and that's why, I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily need to see it again. I think I got everything I needed out of the first viewing. I do want more, but not more. If that makes any sense. Yeah. I want a director to have the voice that they need to have and to do what they need to do. I would have loved to have seen Edgar Wright's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm seeing that a little bit now with Deadpool. And now that we have that being successful, I hope James Gunn is wrong, but I believe he's gonna be right. And that's what makes me kind of sad and angry. Because it's like you missed what made this cool, even on a slight level. You know, because even you who's not necessarily the biggest Deadpool, doesn't really dig the humor, still likes the fact that it at least tried something different.
Sure. That's the business, Roberto.
Yep, that is the business.
It's not art.
Well,
it's business.
Well, let's give them the business. What if they want to give us business and they want to support us as viewerships? Where can they go to watch more stuff of ours?
Google.
They can go to Google.com.
Google.com. You click on the cinematography tab.
Okay.
Which we worked out a very lucrative deal.
Yes, yeah, that costed me a pretty penny to put us there.
50 million in debt. We're Kanye.
if only we were that many. If only it were that cheap. No, of course you can go to cosmicradiotv.com/cinematography. There you'll find other stuff. You go on YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel now. Directly YouTube.com/cinematography.
Yep.
You can catch.
We got in before YouTube enacted. They're like, you can't have your own special link unless you have 100 subscribers. Get out of here. We started this channel like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we
just didn't use it.
Brent, where people can find you online these days if they want to talk to you more?
Twitter's your best bet because it's really impersonal in some capacities. Twitter.com/Gatowag, GATOWAG. Hit me up there. I'll talk to you.
And of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 there on the Twitters. If you want to talk to us both over our show Twitter account, hit us up at Cinematalkraphy there on the Twitters. And even though I mentioned the YouTube channel, youtube.com/cinematography, I didn't tell you guys to subscribe, which you can do if you click right here on Brandt's nose. Right on Brandt's nose. Right there.
I want to make him a liar by not doing any kind of annotation. Also, you can send us an email.
Cinematography@gmail.com. And let us know if there's any movies you want us to be seeing this year. Either in theaters or out of theaters. Maybe you want to see another super movie. Maybe you want to see like the worst movie on the planet. Who knows?
Maybe you just want us to watch 10 Cloverfield Lane because we're gonna do that.
We're gonna do that no matter what. That's gonna happen because we love the director. And in fact, I'm a huge fan of John Candy. I think he's actually gonna be, again, I tend to like him in serious roles when he does serious roles for sure.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. So tune in next time. Bye.